This is Normal Heights Community Planning Group for December 3rd, 2024. Normal Heights Planning Group envisions a healthy, vibrant community that honors unceded Kumeyaay land and cares for all inhabitants. We prioritize inclusive and equitable land use, valuing people over commodification through pedestrian-friendly infrastructure, transit-oriented development, open space preservation, and affordable housing. We strive for a vibrant and sustainable neighborhood. Additionally, we promote responsible economic development that supports historic preservation, local business, fosters communities, and overall economic vitality. A little agenda setting, a little housekeeping items may be addressed on the agenda in time. The proceedings are recorded and publicly posted on our website. The chat is not considered official communications. It's not posted on the website afterwards. But we do appreciate if you go ahead and put your email address into the chat if you would like to subscribe to our mailing list. And your attendance also counts here towards legitimizing this group. So it's much appreciated, those that are on the Zoom channel. Now we have 10 people in Zoom. I think that's a new record. Looks like maybe 2 dozen in the room. Few rules: no cussing, no hollering, no spitting on the floor, no fighting, and no horses inside. Do a round of introductions. I'm Paul Coogan, chair, and today's question is: which Hallmark movie did you star in? And I would choose journalism, but during Christmas. Let's go ahead and start over on this with Nancy. A little of each. Okay.
Alan Harjula, and I'll go with People Corporation, Brighton Small Business.
Yay.
Brian Adams, I try to avoid watching Hallmark movies at all costs. I don't think I can even. I'm gonna pass on that question.
Ooh, okay.
Hi, Edie Kaufman. I don't know any Hallmark movies yet.
These are your choices.
Yeah.
I would definitely do Eagle Corporation, very small business.
Okay, I'm getting a flavor in the room.
Chuck Kessler representing the Evidence Association. I'm just really don't have a choice.
Julia Porter, and I'm also going to do journalism during Christmas. Maybe just give us what President, thank you for acknowledging Hallmark movies. So I'm just going to go with the Eagle Corporation first.
All right, thank you. Is there any digital communications we should be aware of? Next door, Facebook, email, text, fax?
Also, next door,
Is there anything that particularly needs to be addressed here? Like somebody said, hey, why doesn't the NHCPG do X?
no.
Okay.
Did everyone write a recommendation?
I'm probably gonna bring that up to the community engagement stuff.
Okay. Next up, non-agenda. We will start with 2 minutes per person and attendees in the room. And if you are towards the back, please at least come up and sit in the front row so that folks on Zoom can hear you.
Yep, same as last week or last month. Another client of mine complaining of stagnant water on 36th Street between Madison and Monroe. I understand, like you're saying, maybe we should do get it done reports, but I guess the city is already aware of it. they do like mosquito mitigation on it, I guess, in the summers, but from what they told me today, even when they do that, and I guess they do it pretty constantly.
Okay.
Mosquitoes are still surviving, and it just stinks. There's nowhere for the water to go, so we got a super duper drainage issue with a lot of our crews not going anywhere.
Where's this located?
36th Street between Madison and Monroe on the west side of the street. It really is on both sides of the street, I mean, but yeah, 36 between Madison and Monroe specifically, it just stays, there's nowhere for it to go.
Oddly enough,
Both ends are going down, so.
that used to be where the reservoir was.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
then we should,
So I didn't really recommend them to do anything. I mean, they could do a get it done report, but what they were telling me, the city's already aware of it, so it seems like we can complain about it, but really, they feel and I feel and most people feel like nothing's gonna be done about it anytime soon. It's just unfortunate. So just making that comment.
okay, we should, definitely, get to the GID. I can get it onto our, bird dogging task list. And then becomes that goes to our representatives, month after month to get updates on it through, Sarah and Fatima.
I did explain to them that we have the ability to do stuff like that, to try to fast track things or make it urgent. But, it really comes down to, there's nothing that can be done about it until you redo the street.
Hey,
Or
Paul,
in the gutter, or create a drain, but as we know, most of those, our streets are unfunded, and it's not happening anytime soon either.
Okay,
It's
ready?
a public health issue.
Yes.
yes, Fatima has her hand raised.
Oh, okay. Yes, Fatima.
I was just gonna say if you wanna go ahead and grab my contact information, or if I can grab yours, I can go ahead and check in with our stormwater department to see if they have any updates or movement on that. If not, like Paul said, he could also send a number of items of that Sarah and I can look into on everyone's behalf.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be a top issue for us.
Yeah. Maybe we can do a survey or something online and figure out where the rest of them are. I'm sure there's more.
Sure. I'm sure we took up more than 2 minutes on that, but anybody else in the room? So let's move to Zoom. Anybody on Zoom? 2 minutes per person. Okay.
I have a quick question. Are the lights that, the tall lights, the gas lights on Adams Avenue, are they on timers or?
So they're on, not timers, but
I noticed one was on during the day the other day in
Yeah.
front of the dog food store.
yeah, there's a bunch that are on during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're the wiring, now. And all our main.
Okay, are you able to see the presentation?
We
Oh, great, great.
Well, try full screen for us.
Okay. Well, thank you. So you see the presentation then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great, terrific. Well, thanks for having me in this evening to give you an update on Measure B. I know you got a presentation from my colleague a while ago, and I'm just going to run through some basic background about Measure B. My name's John Schmidt. I'm with Cook and Schmidt and helping the city out with the public engagement around Measure B. And I'm going to run through some basics about Measure B and then give you some input about where we are in the process of implementing Measure B. So Measure B, as you probably know, was passed by voters in 2022 and allows the city to review trash collection services and potential fees as well for trash collection. And the city could begin charging for single-family homes or properties with 4 or fewer units. So those who would be impacted would be, as I said, single-family homes, properties with 4 units or less. Also, multifamily residential homeowners with up to 4 units on a single lot. Family residential properties with 5 or more units, and then properties that meet city service requirements. So, the bottom line is would be a fee for single family homes is the bottom line. There's a lot of sort of, confusion because some multifamily properties are currently getting city pickup and they won't be getting that pickup. Apartment buildings, condos, properties on private roads, all of those currently should be paying a franchise hauler to be removing their trash. And so some people will be then going on the city system and other people will be going off of it. But the bottom line is really single family homes are going to be paying a fee. So the city has been conducting what's called a cost of service study. And this is establishing the baseline cost for collection services. It's also taking a look and asking residents, are there additional services they're interested in? The cost of service study is determining a fee structure and also looking at discount programs for lower income residents. So the basic timeline here, as I said, it passed in November 2022. The outreach and began really in the summer of 2024. And I'll go into some of the details of what that is included. And then we are now in the second round of outreach, and then going to be giving the city council an update, I think on next Monday. And I'll go into that the timeline in a little more detail in a moment. So the first round of outreach and engagement that really went through the summer and into the early fall, during that phase, the city engaged with more than 6,300 people. We got about 3,000 survey responses, met with about 3,400 residents. The city had in-person open houses in each of the 9 council districts and attended community events, did presentations, had online open houses, things like that. The city also was placing articles in the media, conducting interviews, doing social media, direct emails, launched a website, cleangreensd.org, and then engaging with leaders of the community. So some of the survey results that have come through is between 74 and 83% of the respondents said they were satisfied or very satisfied with the current service that they were receiving from the city. And they identified some of the top issues, which included things like damaged bins and the fact that residents have to buy a new bin if their bin is damaged. They discussed delayed or missing collections, some confusion about what goes where in terms of organic or recycling, so forth. And then the perception that organic waste attracts pests. I think those green bins are something we're struggling to get used to with the bucket in the kitchen as well for kitchen waste. Other things about the first round of engagement, some of the enhancements, the top service enhancements that people expressed interest in were they were interested in different sized containers that would have different pricing associated with them. They're interested in getting recycling picked up more often. They were interested in bulky item pickup. Those are things like sofas, couches, washing machines, things like that. And interested in getting bins replaced without an additional fee. And then interested in an easier way to get rid of hazardous materials like paint and things like that. So other comments that we heard during that first round of engagements was some people said they're already paying for this through their property taxes and we're not supportive of a fee. Some really asked for continued transparency as the city goes through this process, which is what the city's attempting to do. And people were grateful for the opportunity to speak directly with the city. So the second round of outreach is currently underway. And we encourage you to attend meetings. It's well underway, so there's a few meetings left. There's an online survey again. And the second phase is getting into relative costs associated with the different services. And you can email the San Diego trash at sandiego.gov. and go to the website at cleangreensd.org, where there's a lot of information and a schedule of public meetings. So here's a schedule of the public meetings. Happy to, you can go to the website and find this as well. So there's meetings yesterday, tonight, and a few more meetings. There's virtual meetings December 6th, and there's a Spanish language one and an English language one on this Friday. And you can go to the website and get the link for that there. So just to review the timeline moving forward in a little bit more detail. So we are conducting the second round of outreach now in the fall through the end of the year, and we'll be conducting informational updates. So the cost of service study and fee schedule will be presented to the environmental committee of the city council in the beginning of the year, and it would be presented to the full city council in March. And there would be a third round of outreach based on that. Now, the city can opt to, city council can opt to recover the full fee, the full cost of trash collection. It can opt to recover part of the cost of trash collection, or it can opt to not recover any of the cost of trash collection and not impose a fee. So there's a 45-day waiting period before anything can be done. And during that time period, people would be mailed a mailer, those who would be affected, and they have the opportunity to oppose a fee. And if more than 50% of those who would be affected oppose the fee, then the city cannot impose a fee. So the city council would vote in June of 2025, and then implementation would start next summer. So again, cleangreensd.org, go there for more information. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Sure.
Trying to stop sharing.
Actually, if you could clarify the how the ADUs would be handled. Let's say you have a main house and you have an ADU, and you built out a couple of bonus ADUs. So you have basically 4 residences on the property. You'd have an anchor house and 3 ADUs. It sounds like you'd still be qualified as a single family home, but 1 more ADU or JADU would make another residence. So the JADU is a residence, even though it's not a separate dwelling unit. So
Yes, I believe that is the case, and I'll get a confirmation on that, but I believe that is the case, that it would get, the ADU should get its own bin.
Okay, then I would also have a question of if the ADUs have separate addresses on the same parcel, does each one of those qualify as a single family home because they have a unique address, or is it by parcel?
So your question is, do they qualify as a unique address because they have a separate address, or do they qualify as a unique address because they are a separate parcel?
Right, so in many cases, ADUs get their own address, so you'd have, 3629, 3631, but they would both be on the same parcel. So would that count as 2 single-family homes or 1 parcel?
Well, I think I'll get a definitive answer on this. I'll email you a definitive answer, but it's my understanding that the ADUs would be considered separate from the main residence. So if it has a separate address, it certainly would be. But if it's on the same parcel, but there's multiple residences on the parcel, they're treated as separate residences.
Separate residences.
Well, I can confirm, I live in I think what is an old school ADU, and that's how my apartment works, is 1 parcel, 4 residences, and we each have our own bin.
Each have your own bin with your own
With our
own account and service.
Yep,
Okay, good to know.
but mine's an old school one, so I don't know.
Yeah.
New school another way.
So it would probably be a good thing for that to continue on rather than it be considered that, oh, you guys are all part of a parcel that would be folded together, and then you'd have to get a dumpster and find a place for it. Oh, okay. Any questions from the board?
I have a question. So you're Cook and Schmidt, and you said you were hired by the city. What are you, your law firm, your marketing?
We're a public outreach and community engagement firm.
Your marketing firm?
Well, community engagement. We specialize in community engagement.
Okay,
What do you think?
yeah.
It says marketing on the website. So.
Sure. Scott?
John, was there any goal in the contract of what percentage of residents you're seeking to ideally get input from? You mentioned 3,000 so far. Is there a goal in the contract of a certain percentage of the population?
There's no stated goal. There's no stated
Okay. And then, so the cost of service, study, you're not, your firm isn't constructing that? Is the city forces coming up with the cost of delivering the service? How does that work?
Yeah, so there is the engineering firm HDR is conducting the cost of service study.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
Any other board questions? Then,
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really for our presenters, more than general. Any like comments on how, I guess, I was surprised that something that was like a free service, that like people voted voluntarily to like pay for it. I don't know if anyone has like comments on like how that happened, or like if
It's
there
a
were.
long story.
we really,
I don't think we can take the time for that now. I just would, in my opinion, it's an interesting story.
I think
You
it's,
can Google the people's ordinance and
Yeah, it's really just one sentence.
The percentage of housing that was multifamily and paying out of pocket, as well as paying property taxes that were being used to provide single family home and single family homes, the percentages got very, very close. And it went on the ballot and people voted to allow the city to look at whether or not to charge a fee to get the trash collection and recycling and organics out of general fund.
Oh,
okay.
I'm not sure that that's the answer. For me, the answer is the developers that have large apartment units that have to contract paid quite a bit to put it on the ballot. And it was like 50-1 promoting it, including the papers, very much, the union very much in favor of it. So that's kind of how it got on.
Thank you. It sounds like we have a sort of very complex equation, because there's also the history of the pig farm.
I mean, yeah.
Smoke screen.
Yeah, right. Okay. Anybody, let's go to Zoom. I saw some hands raised there. Rainey.
So my
And then
question,
Dave.
sorry, to John is the same question I've had all along. For decades, my family has been very focused on what we're buying so that we ensure that we're not throwing away as much. If we put the black bin out once a month, it's been a busy month. So how are you going to accommodate those of us who are trying our best to not have trash, but instead to buy specifically to recycle or to compost? And it goes to a bigger question of, there are cities around the world right now that are encouraging people to use the compost and the recycling, and they're not picking up as much just basic trash, to the fact that they are limiting the pickup of trash to maybe once a fortnight or even once a month. So what is the city looking at in terms of encouraging better behavior so that we don't have to have these services taxed?
So one of the things that the city is considering is different size bins. I'm with you. We generate one kitchen trash bag of trash a week. But I went and I got a second recycling bin. So we have two recycling bins and one trash bin. So one of the things the city is looking at is different size bins that people might get charged a different amount. I don't know where they're going to end up at the end of the day. I don't know what the recommendation is going to be in the cost of service study, but I know they're examining that. And I know it's the city's goal to reduce what goes into the landfill. And I know that the city is considering doing an educational campaign to try to reduce the amount of trash that goes into the landfill by educating people about recycling and green waste and things like that. So the city is making efforts in that regard.
I would appreciate if you could pass that along because our trash pickup guys actually have to slam on their brakes when they see our black bin because they're so used to us not putting it out. So I'd appreciate if you kind of pass that along.
What is going on here?
Trying our best.
Okay, I'll pass that along for sure. All your comments I'm passing along.
Thank you.
Danielle.
Yes, good evening. It looks like Rami had a question in the chat also. But my question is kind of along the same lines. What was the percentage of yes votes to no votes when this was in a put out to the voting population of San Diego? And her question is, was this a primary vote or a general election vote? When exactly did it happen, I guess?
Well, it was a general election. I'm pretty sure it was in November. So it was general election. And, you know, I used to know that what the percentage was, and I can't remember right now. I mean, you know, like everything like this, I don't, it wasn't a huge majority, but it was more than 50%.
Was
Yes,
a few thousand, maybe two,
pretty narrow.
maybe less. It was pretty narrow.
I know, it seems, was it 52%? Do other people have that recollection? It seemed like that was.
No, way.
We'll
We
look
can-
it up in the notes.
50.01.
Any other questions? In the room then?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've been going to these meetings, so it's not really 3,600 people, it's just me, like 36 times. I went to the meeting yesterday and the gentleman leading it, who unfortunately I forgot his name, didn't write it down, said that the city is spending over $1.5 million on the outreach. I'm curious, why is it so much? I'm the suspicious type, maybe you can tell. But, you know, like all these meetings are, and the online surveys, which, you know, have to cost something, seem to be more push-pulls than what is your opinion? You know, I'd like to see things like batteries and glass in separate bins, all picked up, you know, like maybe 4 separate bins like they do in Europe, that are all segregated and sent off to be recycled. And I don't see that. I just see more of the same, you know, and that your only choice on the surveys are, you want more trash bins or, so why are they spending so much money on pushing more trash bins?
Well, the city, it was a competitive process where that's how the city selected the consultant. And they picked the consultant that they thought had the best approach to this project. And that was the approach that this consultant proposed.
Well, why are they spending the money on consultants?
Because the city spends a lot of money on consultants because they don't have the bandwidth to do everything.
It looks like they're, you know, you work for a marketing, so it does seem more of a marketing campaign than an outreach, just to the skeptical ones.
Well,
So you
I
can
think
pass
we'll-
that along if you would.
Sure, I think we'll leave that there, that this, I think it's a good comment about the amount of study and marketing that's done.
if I can address the issue he raised about why
Sure.
he's only putting forth certain things, I think that those are the things that the city believes it can realistically do. You know, the city is not opening this up in terms of the surveys, making anything and everything an option because it knows that it cannot realistically do anything and everything. So it's putting on the survey things that it knows that it could do.
Okay, yes, in the back.
One question, and I'm not sure that you have the answer, but I brought it up at one of the meetings about the pilfering of the recyclables and why the city doesn't do something about that. And the answer I got was so outrageous that I just dropped it. But is there any, in your surveys and everything, has that problem been brought up, and is there any looking at what could be done on that problem?
You're right. I can't answer that question. I have not heard that before, but I will pass that along to the city.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, John, for your presentation. Good information, and we'll make sure to get all of those links onto the website as well. It's included in the notes.
Well, great. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have Graffiti Strike Force with Officer Scott Holden.
How we doing?
Good. Come on up to the. I think if you look at the screen here, you kind of sense where the sweet spot is there. You're probably pretty good. Let me go ahead and get this out of here.
Sweet spot would be not be in the middle.
There you go.
There it is. Look at that. Scott Holden, Jenny Hall, Officer Hall, gave me a call to go up and see if you guys had any questions regarding gang graffiti. Been out for 28 years. Did 6 here in City Heights, and then the gang unit ever since 2003. Moved over to the graffiti side of it. So I know it's been a big problem in every area of San Diego, but I'm here if you guys had any questions. Straight away, I can't stay the whole meeting, so after this I have to go. But I give you my number if you guys have any questions.
Absolutely. I think in terms of questions, I'm gonna give Scott the first. Because
I don't have any questions.
you don't have any questions. Any comments? Okay. Because you do.
I think
And then-
the main thing
yeah,
we wanted to
Jake.
bring up is it worth, Scott is on Adams Ave Business Association, and they are removing graffiti daily.
Yes.
Is it worth the investment for Scott or whoever is removing it to take a picture, document, and send it to someone like you?
Yes, sir.
Or do we just continue to wash it away? It's gone. We basically recognized some correlation with events held on Adams Avenue. Different gangs come in, put their mark up, and then I think the last 2 years, within a couple weeks of that, there was a violent crime. Is that right?
A violent crime of an event?
No, after the event, there's a violent crime that comes and we all.
We had some kids stabbing each other 2 years ago as the carnival's breaking down the street fair. And then this year, the shooting happened about a week after the street fair at Wilson and Adams. And we had tons of graffiti at 35th and Adams that were setting up. We had like 10, 15 kids running around. We had cops there. We couldn't catch them. Every time they heard us coming, they'd scatter. And then and I got pictures of that.
Yes.
Yeah, but I used to send pictures. I admitted last meeting that I kind of quit sending them to Jenny. Because, we just cover over every day. We're painting them over, and I don't want to. Anyway, it doesn't seem like anything ever,
Comes with it, right?
resolved, and everyone has more important things to do. But it's Officer Holden says for us to do it, I will start doing it.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, that's the kind of the debacle we're in, is it worth documenting? There's a pay for spray program, so the more we document, the more we can hold them accountable for a higher charge, is that correct?
Yes, well, it depends on the city property, obviously, opposed to private property. A lot of people, I've had even churches, we arrested people for it, and they say, listen, I don't want to file charges. So obviously, the city property, we have a percentage that's $5.01 a square foot. Okay, it's what I tell people is, hey, it's better not to be in the neighborhood. So if you want to paint it over and don't have time to take pictures and send it to me, so be it. But here's the problem: you get your gang members in any part of the city, okay, but when you have an event like you have up here, it's going to attract them. Okay, and when you have gang graffiti and it's allowed in the city because they're handcuffing us, to put juveniles in jail and gang members. Oh, we can automatically use that as a felony. Okay, and that put them on probation. Anyway, the long story short, we have a hard time putting juveniles in jail over any type of gang graffiti related crime. Okay, so when people are spray painting, this is the Mexican Demons area. It's a small gang set that was almost eliminated, but started coming back through the COVID era when we didn't have the punishment available. So then Eastside will come up and visit this function you have up here, and then two gang members see each other, and they either stab each other, fight, shoot each other, and hopefully no one innocent gets hurt and killed. So graffiti is a big thing. It's the first step usually in gangs, where the younger kids will go out and spray paint and claim an area, and it makes the other rival gang mad.
Right.
So yes, it's always, if you want to send me any type of pictures, I'll put it in graffiti tracker. If it just says East Side without a moniker, it really doesn't do anything to me unless I can get a photo of the guy or any type of video. But if it has a moniker like Shorty or you know, Skinny or something like that, then it helps.
So you said it's $5 per square foot if it's on city property, that's what you charge?
Yeah,
So-
$5.01, but yeah.
$5 what?
In 1 cent.
Oh, okay, 501.
I don't know how that came up
So
with that.
maybe Scott doesn't have to send it to you every time, but he could take a measurement, take a picture, document it. The reason I was saying is, if you're having trouble prosecuting juveniles, if you get it over $1,000, can you prosecute that? If you have documented their moniker on our Adams Avenue and you get up to that $1,000 range, over $1,000, can we do something about it? Even juvenile or not?
It's, well,
Once they create a certain monetary value of city damage?
well, DA probably, or city attorney probably be better at the monetary value, because our penal code says 400 for a felony.
Okay.
But it depends on what we're looking at as far as the vandalism. Okay, so we can charge over $400 as a felony, but at $5 in a square foot, it's gotta be pretty big. So it's usually the non-gang member tagging that gets big, that you see on the under freeway, half a football field long.
But
Okay,
it seems to be the same people over and over. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. If we keep track and add these dollars up to go over 400.
well, no, that has to be in one continuous.
Oh,
thing.
one.
Yeah, so, but we do have a graffiti track, and that's why we do. So let's say me and you are tagging, and we've done 100 different areas, we can monetarily add all that up.
Yeah, that's
But
what I'm saying.
if every one is a misdemeanor, it's just 100 misdemeanor.
Okay.
Unless we went on a bombing run, they call it bomb run, if
Right.
we go around the city.
Yeah.
And then if we hit over that threshold of $400 to make a felony, then yes, we can charge us, me and you, for a felony.
Okay.
So
And the pay for spray program, are you familiar with that?
it is with
Is
the
there any
witness.
success in that?
It has, but not much, because honestly, fear, even in City Heights, I constantly have businesses saying this, and homeowners say, this is not worth it. My wife and kids are home alone, and I completely understand. So, I mean, that's their,
So you have to testify or something? You have to give eyewitness testimony?
well, I mean, obviously, if your house got hit and we did a case and some guy got arrested, it's public record where you live.
Right.
Okay, so, I mean, some people said, no, I wanna go for it, I don't care, I wanna do it in my neighborhood. The other one's like, hey, I'm away a lot at night, I don't want my kids, my wife alone, home alone. And so that's their option.
Okay.
Is there anything that we can do in terms of prevention? I'm thinking like lighting certain surface types, things like that.
Oh, boy.
They're all over our park.
Yeah, listen, service type, you know, that corridor that goes from North Park to, I believe Hillcrest, you know, where that huge, you know, on University.
Bridge?
Yeah, that big bridge. I think they tried to put something on that.
Georgia Street.
Georgia, okay.
Yes, they did, I think graffiti was in the same.
Yeah, I don't know if it works,
Okay.
honestly, I don't. So it's,
It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I mean, the business association's, strategy is the quickest we cover it up, that suppresses the activity because, you know, they tagged Jamili's, last night, and we covered it up today, got the masking paint, and that's our strategy is that, if we can't compete with these guys, we might as well give it up. I mean, we have a lot more resources. And so, you know, we have, 2 people out there spraying graffiti. Today, the Park and Rec, by the way, got a huge tag off Ward Canyon that was like 15 feet long, the night, you know, so the morning after. So, and also business owners, we get, people on camera all the time tagging, I cannot tell you one business owner ever wanted to.
That's what I'm saying.
Any prosecution.
I'm considering making a business. To identify those people.
Let's,
Five
we have one, we'll go to Amy on Zoom. And someone needs to.
Quite a big player, huh?
Let me just talk over.
8 people.
And the city is waiting graffiti with crime and making it a felony for juveniles. Is that what we're trying to do here?
No, graffiti is a misdemeanor depending on the size and the amount. Obviously, if someone breaks your car window, depends on the amount, it makes it a misdemeanor felony. What happens with gangs, we have, it's a 186, the gang statute that you add to that crime, which makes it a felony.
So graffiti is equated to like violent gang activity.
Gang graffiti is, yes. I mean, if I put "I love you" across your house, that's not gang related. That's just graffiti. And you would have to determine the measurement on the costs to make it, whether it's a felony.
Yeah, I agree that it is annoying.
Right.
But you know,
But no, with gang members,
with
gang members, there's a statute where you can add a gang enhancement, which makes a misdemeanor into a felony.
For me, that just seems like digging a deeper hole. Because you take a juvenile offender, now he's a felon before 18, and graffiti is going to be the least of your problems. I, as you can tell, was against prosecuting, but in these areas, people are concerned about crime.
I think the whole reason we wanted you today is just to see if there's value in documentation.
There absolutely is. And I mean, and Scott, if you call get it done at the city property, they'll come out. Usually takes them a couple days because they only have 5 or 6 guys throughout the whole city from La Jolla to South Bay. But so, or you
Pay now, you mean to pay out graffiti?
yes, sir, on city property.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah,
it's,
well, we pretty much just do city property because we're a maintenance subsidy district. We lamppost, sidewalks, mailboxes.
like I said, if whatever makes your community the best possible, if it hurts as far as prosecution on my end, I'd rather have you guys do what you want and clean up your area. And I have Northern Division 2, Mission Beach, and I tell them, I mean, they said, hey, I want it out of here. I said, hey, if you don't have the time, but we do prosecute a lot of kids and adults. And I don't see the difference, to be honest with you, because that's what's causing all your stabbings and stuff at these nice functions that you have. So, yeah, whatever you guys want to do, you guys can send me any picture you want. And especially if it's useful for prosecution, like it doesn't even have to be gang. It can be just a regular tagger with his moniker. Okay, so I'm sorry, this gentleman had
I'm gonna go to Rainey on Zoom, and then we'll take Kenny's question.
Thank you, Paul. So I'm kind of thinking out of the box here. What if we encourage reformed taggers to do art around our community, and then that art has a value? And if there's tags that happen to the art and is at a higher dollar level, then doesn't that then pressure those who are just tagging just to tag, just to mark their territory, into a avenue of being intercepted by the judicial system so that they understand what they're doing and maybe choose a different path? And not only does it help to create this avenue of exception, but also wouldn't it beautify our community?
Hey, listen, we do have artists that go into certain areas, and there's quite a few areas. There's Elliott Park, there's a lot of different parks in City Heights area that there's artists that do paint up walls, it actually deters the gang members and other taggers from tagging that wall. So I'm with you. Some of these artists are absolutely fantastic at what they do. Unfortunately, a lot of the gang members, they don't do art, they just spray paint their gang name and gang sign and challenge other gang sets, but I'm with you on the tagging part, but we do have that. We do have a lot of artists that go out and the city. I don't know, besides Azalea Park, what's the other park, Jenny? That's off of Orange.
Oh, Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto. So yeah, it proves to be successful. It deters regular gang graffiti. So yeah, it's a good point.
Thank you. Kenny.
Thank you for being here, Holden. And in years past, I sat in a meeting where there was a description of not putting an X through a tag because that's identified as a challenge. Is there anything that your department might put out that we can give to citizens so that they don't make that mistake?
Yeah, well, I'll have to check out as far as, I mean, you can always call me and I'll X, okay, there's, if you see an X and a 3, that's a 13, it's a Roman numeral, for the 10, and then a 3, but they also we'll cross them out or put a straight line if it's a rival gang set.
What I'm saying is, I have a neighbor in a different city who would just put a few lines through the graffiti, and then they attack the house.
Yeah.
Because they saw it as a different gang challenging them, when it was just an individual saying, I don't like this on my fence. So do you have any kind of education that we can give to homeowners so they don't make it?
Well, just paint it out completely. I mean, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. So education from you, rather than one of us knocking on the door saying, by the way, you need to buy paint.
Right.
Something from you that says, this is the safest way for you to paint rather than further piss off.
Well, I honestly, if you just paint out the color it originally was, I think if I understand you correct, your friend crossed it out like another gang set would do.
They didn't know that that's what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's
what I'm saying. So
okay.
how can there are ways to educate that you might already have flyers or collateral virtually or otherwise?
No, I honestly don't have a pamphlet on how to get along with your local gang member.
It's not get along, it's to not further irritate.
Right, yeah, listen, I mean, even when I dealt with them, when I was a police officer in uniform, not old, these kids know when they do wrong, okay? So, and to go back to retaliation, unless a bad person, if any of us in this room is done wrong, we're not gonna retaliate. These kids, even at age 12 to 30, we've had 50-year-olds tag, it's crazy. They know they did wrong, especially when you say, listen, do you want me to tag your mom's house? What would you feel if, and so they know, they get it. So just painting over back to the regular color is the best way to do it. But crossing out, I think there was kind of a miscommunication with the homeowner, and because that's what they say, like, oh, someone just crossed out my tag and he must be the rival gang member. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just asking if you have anything that we can then give to people.
I think this
time to give to people that says, this might make you a traditional target. This is the way to deal with it if you don't want to involve.
All right, well, let me see if we have something, and I'll go through Jenny.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
Okay.
Well, if we don't have something, we could figure something out.
Okay.
Create and how to word them.
So to get in touch with you through our community service, or do you have a direct? Because I realize you're somewhat of an expert, but you seem to have a lot of this.
Oh, we can talk afterwards, and we can work out over a misconception.
All right,
and I'll give you my number. We can talk over Christmas and everything.
I think there's confusion in the room that you're.
Is there somebody I can get in touch with?
Yeah, I think there's some confusion in there that you might be like a city representative, and you're not, you're.
Police officer.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I thought I introduced myself.
I think all of our queries can go through Jenny, because you'll route from the community, right?
Officer Holden, if he, I mean, however you want to do it to file everything, you let me know, we'll talk.
Oh, yeah, I'll give Jenny my email and my desk number, and anytime you guys want to reach out to me.
Okay, we're gonna take a little break in a minute.
Easy peasy.
I'll take Alan before we move on to the next item, if you don't mind.
Yeah, or when we just do a get it done, like send them a picture of a tag.
Yes.
Do they forward that on
You, if it looks like it's dangling?
What they'll do is they take their own picture and they'll give a measurement. So it gives us the amount and everything. So yes, and that's part of what we can get into the graffiti tracker. They get it done, we'll put it in the graffiti tracker and that logs these guys so we can, if we catch one of them, they can go back and get it.
Okay, so if I just do it, get it done, then I don't have to send it to you as well.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Edie?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, 'cause I walked past, Pep Boys the other day, and I noticed they got pants really bad on them.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, should I take a picture of that, and do I send it to somebody? I don't actually have to. Is that something we should send to you?
Well, that's interesting because we've gotten quite a few people tagging that particular store and they will not help us at all. I called corporate, they won't respond back.
Yeah, there's problems with that part.
So I go in there quite a lot and put in, get it done just to keep away the altercations with the different ring sets. So, I mean, we can't force a private hand to prosecute, so.
So is that worth us sending?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, officer.
Have a great evening.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Next up is an update on Montezuma fire. I'm gonna try and play a little bit of video here first.
All right, so on that day, October 31st, right? If you look at it right now, the weather report at 1:35 was 70 degrees, 57% relative humidity, winds were 8 miles per hour, 0 wind gusts, right? Okay, a typical beautiful San Diego day, as we like to say.
Update on Montezuma fire.
They're heading actually to the north side because the fire started spotting to the north on us. But I want to show you in that video there, right there, it's going to end here in a second, about 45-second video of how quickly that fire was burning, right? The intensity and the heat behind it. And I want you to think of that, the intensity and heat that was behind it, based on the fact that we had 0 wind gusts, 75 degrees, all right? Simple San Diego day. He rolled up on scene, found the corner down there at the bottom, and the size up that he gave was engine 17 is on scene at a 3 to 4 acre fire, moderate rate of spread to fast rate of spread, and medium to heavy fuel. I need immediate fixed wing response. And that was incredibly important because a fixed wing response for us is a CAL FIRE response for them to get them rolling. As you all know, when you're trying to leave San Diego Airport, it doesn't exactly go quickly, right? The same thing with a fixed wing response. They run out, they spool up the engines, they start getting going. And what they get is 1 lead plane, 2 fixed wing plane with them. Right? We're actually getting a C-130 in town this week that will be here permanently moving forward, which will be a great resource for us from CAL FIRE. He asked for a fixed wing response. He asked for a helicopter response. We also asked for 5 strike teams. A strike team for us is 5 engines, like kind. So you can have brush engines, which are your off-road engines that you normally see, or you can have type 1 apparatus. Type 1 are here on the left that you see every day on the streets. No off-road capabilities. They're what you see running around the city of San Diego every day. 2 hand crews. Hand crews are the ones that you see digging the line around the edges of the fire as they're going through it. And then multiple overhead. So overhead for us is op support. We have water tenders. We have specialty apparatus. And then multiple chiefs are going to be responding to it too, to take over divisions and other things, as I'll show as I go forward. The key thing with this is our response times. Captain Higgins did a great job in ensuring that he called that fixed wing right away. For us, it's usually a 15 to 20 minute response before they get overhead. So calling that 15 to 20 minute, somebody's got it going, right? All right. Sorry, I heard the phone going there. So 15, 20 minute response, the quicker we can call for that order, the much better it's going to be for all of us, right? And the helicopters. For us, the city of San Diego, we currently have 2 helicopters in the city of San Diego that we use, and then we use our outside resources from CAL FIRE, Sheriff's Department, will come and help us in that response. So we also ask for more helicopters. That's the response units that came, okay? So 350 plus personnel. If you look at the top there, that is all the single engines. If you see where it says an XSD 6430C, and these are all the things that I geek out on, right? Acronyms, terms, whatever. Okay, an XSG 6430C, it looks like one unit, that's not, it's a strike team. So that's 5 engines within just that one single monitor with a chief bringing them along on that fire. Okay, for us, it's 350 personnel that came like that. That's the beauty of what we have in a mutual aid resource in San Diego. I go across the United States, I work with multiple departments from East Coast, West Coast, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Canada, all over the place. What we have in California, and especially across the entire state with our mutual aid system, is something I don't see anywhere else across the world, basically, too. The fact that we can get resources like this on the scene so quickly is amazing. It's seamless for us. And the reason why is if you look down at the bottom, you see all the different agencies that responded with us. So 350 plus personnel. We also had San Diego PD, SCSU PD, Sheriffs, San Diego OES, Red Cross. I give a huge shout out. If there's anybody here from Hardy Elementary, I just say thank you. Huge thank you, because we took over your school in 3 minutes, basically. And we told you, get everyone out right now, right? And you said, here's the parking lot, here's bathrooms, you guys need waters. Hardy Elementary was great to us. I have to put that out there right now because I didn't get a chance to talk to anyone that night. I went home about 3 in the morning and my eyes were doing a little blink, right? I forgot to say anything to Hardy, but tonight I wanted to call them out for how well they treated us for two. So if you look through all those units, we have our regular ground resources that we have, and then for our air resources. In the end, we use 2 fixed wing, 4 helicopters, in conjunction with CAL FIRE helping us out on that, and that helped us to mitigate that fire and push it back. For a split second at the start, because of later on you'll see in the picture, because of the way that the smoke was rising, we couldn't get fixed wing drops on the south end. We couldn't get it because they're not going to fly through the middle of smoke, right? It's not attainable. So that's where the copters coming in and giving us those low drops and taking care of it, help us out. For us, so this is an image. So when I talk about the resources here in California and what we can do for one another, when there are fires that break in the state of California, whether it be Southern or Northern California, an air resource starts to give us an image of what is on fire, where our heat signatures are, where it's going to go. So this is just a couple minutes into the fire. I'd say probably 45 minutes into the fire of the heat signatures as it was running. For us as a fire department, we do things we call it anchor, flank, and pinch. Sounds great, right? Good little term, anchor, flank, and pinch. So what that means is when you look up there and you see that orange area towards the top, my daughter said it's yellow, I think it looks orange, but the orange yellow top, where those two meet, that's where we anchor the fire. We anchor it, we flank it, we try to pinch it at the top, right? So evacuations, I'm gonna cover this real quick, but San Diego PD is here too, and so I'm sure there will be questions on here. We'll answer those questions for you. But what I want to talk about is the fact that we've changed the way that we did evacuations in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, if you look on the left, we have the old way of doing it. We would take a huge block. We would say 6301 Alpha, get it out. 6301 Bravo, tell them they need to get out, right? But we might only need this little tiny chunk from what was there telling people that they need to leave their home. On the right, you have what's called the Genesis program. What was used that day is we're trying to do it. If you look at it, it follows the contours of the streets. We worked 2.5 years throughout the state of California to set this system up so we can specifically take out areas that are going to help with ingress and egress.
So the best method or the best tactic that we can do as homeowners is to harden our home and ensure that we have defensible space around our home. We've in the past we've talked about defensible space in regards to brush, but I want to talk about defensible space in regards to combustibles within 0 to 5 feet from our house. What we have here is a schematic and what it looks like. We have zone, they call it zone 0 light. So what we need to do within the fire service, this is a new concept, relatively new over the years. We're still using different terms. We're getting better at that. So we're calling it zone 0, the home ignition zone. And essentially, we want to remove all the combustibles from that zone. When we do the case studies, I'm going to show you how the zone 0 and having combustibles in the zone 0 made that home extremely vulnerable to embers. We're going to have more, also, so don't forget, we're going to have more information at the tables out there regarding this and pamphlets, and we can discuss this if you'd like regarding your home. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the case study and how this home was affected by the Montezuma fire, the sequence of events that occurred, and what the firefighters did.
There was
So
one home that caught on fire.
my job was to go out and see how the fire affected the community. And one of the things that I discovered was that there was a home that was damaged, but potentially lost. I went into the home and I conducted a damage assessment on the home. Essentially what I do is I walk around the house, I look for different factors, I look for signs of fire. And as I approached the house, I started walking, and this, I said it's on the delta side. Let me explain what that means. When you go to a house and you look at the front, it's the alpha side. That's how we call it. You just clockwise you go around. Bravo, Charlie's in the rear, delta is to the right of the home. As we're walking down towards the delta side, I see a couple of things that are of interest to me. I see that there is debris left from the fire located there. It's kind of pixelated at my place. You see a pretty good view? Can you guys see out there? Okay, perfect. What I noticed was that was significant, come close to this picture. You have the white demarcation on the siding of the home. That indicates to me that there was a high intensity fire that was burning cleanly, but that means they had all the right conditions. They had fuel, heat, and oxygen. Above it, you see the demarcation of soot. I look over to the right, you have some wood siding that has charring. And then you have like a planter table located there that had deep charring. The deep charring was actually underneath the table, and that's significant. These materials, combustible materials, we call that a receptive fuel bed. And what is it receptive of? It's receptive for these low intensity fires that fly through the air and they land there. Undetectable for most people, but they're just smoldering against the house or on these combustible piles, and then fire starts. Fire started in this collection of combustible material here, and then it started spreading towards this table. You can tell by the charring beneath the table. On the Charlie side, I'm looking back towards it. The ignition source is that area going down. That was the same area, but it leads to underneath the deck. So they had a beautiful deck that looked at the canyon. And what I noticed was the charring. If you look at this beam that's going across, the deeper, they call it alligatoring. That's signs of heavy, intense fire. And here's the things that I've learned from this view. We did have a wind of 8 miles per hour. It was coming out of the northwest, and it was feeding through Montezuma. As it approached the home, whenever we have like a choke point, or we have a thing called the Venturi effect, where it actually accelerates the wind. We had the debris pile burning underneath the deck. The wind comes to the deck, it actually speeds up the process. It's like a bellows, it's blowing air on this fire. And then now this fire is burning freely underneath this deck. When I said, remember about how the first fire engine company requested fixed aircraft, they jumped from the top. If you have a deck that was free burning fire, it's not effective. This house was extremely vulnerable. But a lot of our houses, if not all of our houses, are extremely vulnerable. But there are certain things out there that we can do that are low cost, high impact things to buy the firefighters time. Because if the firefighters have 1 gallon of water to put on that low intensity fire that was right up against your house, they could have extinguished that fire. There are some things that we can do. For example, the vent screens. This is on the Delta side also. When I came across my first idea that how this fire spread was through the vents. I went up to the vent and I ran my hand across the screen, and the screen was just cluttered with embers. The embers were extinguished. It was after the fire, of course. And I felt the size of the mesh. The mesh was beneath 1/8 of an inch. That is what we were recommending. It did its job. The fire did not enter the home through the vent. For me, it was validation of what we're seeing out there. Hey, you know what? Get your vents checked. Change your vents. It works. It worked on this house. The reason why this house had fire in it was from underneath the deck. So we really want to encourage the community coming together and creating these councils, start to speak the same language, start to understand what the real problems are, and make changes in a community sense.
Couple things that are not in the video, but the question of course was asked, what started the fire? The issue is that with the amount of water that's dumped onto the scene, where the ignition points are get washed away. So they have to start looking at things like where there are ring doorbells or other video people, something that they can piece together, where the fire started. So that's an ongoing investigation. They have not come to any conclusions on that. The last part on here is in terms of home hardening. The city offers a free service through the fire department. They will come out and do an evaluation and make recommendations free of charge. So that's available. I think we'll have that. We'll have that link on our resources on the website. Any questions about the?
Did it touch on the evacuation?
They did. For the evacuation, there was a couple of issues. They were starting to clear people out through Montezuma, and then they had a shooting near SDSU that they had to respond to, and so they had to abandon traffic control on Montezuma. There was also they also consider ingress and egress, so they'll try to ingress their engines before they egress people, so that they don't run into each other. SDSU did issue an evacuation order. Let's see, I think one question that I had, which is still kind of in the works, is if you don't have a car, how do you evacuate? What's the best recommendation? As I understand it, if you have a grab and go bag, you should make sure that it's on wheels. So if you have to go out on foot, you can drag it along behind. You don't have to carry it. Any other questions? Okay. This whole thing was put on by the Fire Safe Council in Kensington. You might have seen their flyers for the dump-a-thon that they do for clearing out brush. Those dumpsters are actually paid for through a grant to the Fire Safe Council that they have formed over in Kensington. So I'm working with Judy Harrington. She's on the line right now to try and get us a Fire Safe Council for Normal Heights, and then we would be able to bring in grant money to have these dumpsters and education programs and all of the things that come through that program. Judy, do you have anything that you would want to add or say?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Okay, one thing about the free home inspections for home hardening is that they're actually going to pilot a free program through Fire Safe Councils. Right now, they're doing them mainly for home inspections, and you do have to pay for those when a home is for sale. You have to get a approved form filled out on how you've hardened the home before you can sell it. But they do want to offer them for free. And if you could get a Fire Safe Council going for Normal Heights, you could participate in that. So we really hope you'll do that. And also, we get $5,000 to $6,000 a year to put on various fire safety programs. In our dump-a-thon, we haul about 15, 16 tons of brush out of Kensington with that. So I'd really encourage you to do that. And Kensington Fire Safe would be more than happy to work with your community to get that done.
So if we have anybody who's interested in volunteering or starting up here in Normal Heights, just get in contact with me and hook a brother up. Raby, you have your hand raised.
Yes. So, in other parts of the world, they have done things to address wildfires. And one of them is that they have switched from the traditional roofs that we're used to metal roofs that are more resistant to embers and things like that. So is there any movement by the city when they're, providing these permits to these mega mansions that, we have 50 people on one parcel that then have to evacuate in some way during the middle of this chaos? Are they making any kind of concessions at the city level to say, maybe we should be better at fireproofing the homes?
I will, direct that to, Fatima and Sarah, actually, since they're representatives of the city.
Well, I'm happy to answer that too.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So, all new development, new buildings have to follow Title 24 code, and that's just basically by the state, and it's got like everything that you can, so many requirements, like I couldn't even get into all of them, I don't even know half of them, but there are requirements for roofing in there. And it's not metal necessarily, but the types of materials that are used in roofing today, in today's homes, are just naturally a lot more fire resistant than, a home built in the 50s. But on top of that, if there's any development within a very high fire hazard severity zone, I have to sound out in my head with all the acronyms, or in the county, in the backcountry, they call it the wildlife urban interface zone. Don't quote me on those acronyms, but essentially high fire risk areas of both the city and the county. Those, if you are building on property there, you are required to higher standards for windows, roofing, eaves designs, like you have to have eaves that don't catch embers as easily. So with 100% certainty, if you're in one of those high fire areas, you have to meet higher standards. And then I think that even the baseline standards at the state are a lot better than what they used to be.
Okay, that's wonderful, and I appreciate that for sure. I would just like to point out that the permits that are offered by the city for current construction are actually not enforcing that. I can give you an example of a property that got a permit for a particular kind of roof, and that's not the roof they're putting in right now. So I just want to make everybody aware that while we are doing things at the permit level, in reality, that's not what's happening.
Okay, I believe we have it can be submitted to Code Blue, and I've done one even through Get It Done, but that's probably not the best route. I think directly on the code compliance website is the best reporting method. Sarah, Fatima, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, like I said, or like you said, Paul, if there's anything that you think is out of compliance, you can always go ahead and submit those for a request for investigation through our blue team, which is the building and land use I'm already forgetting their name because they always refer to themselves as blue now. But building and land use enforcement, that's their name. You can always submit requests through there, or you can flag it to me once you've submitted that request so that we can go ahead and elevate it to them for their awareness and get more detail on that. I can go ahead and also look into that, Raimi, specifically, because I do know that, like you said, we do have requirements at the city level that, when folks are trying to build buildings, they have to go ahead and go through this very lengthy process to get anything approved. So city does go in there and check those boxes all off to make sure everything's in compliance. But I can go ahead and get those specific details regarding what those requirements may be pertaining to that specific question.
Thank you.
Paul, can I just add something?
Yes, please.
I just want to mention that we've been really actively trying to get the city to not approve these ADU apartment buildings along the canyon rims, because we have had conversations with the agencies that do rating for the insurance companies, and they tell us density is definitely a factor that they take into account. And quite honestly, some of these ADU apartment buildings, they're going to have trouble getting insurance for them. We've asked that there be a regulation that they have to prove they could get insurance before they build these things. So it's a big issue that we're extremely concerned about.
Thank you. Who was asking? Judy Harrington, Kensington Fire.
My only input is, I think it's still worth talking to Station 18 because that was good info, but we didn't learn anything about Normal Heights evacuation plan or anything like that.
I did talk to Station 18. They wanted to refer it to their communications office. So we may have a visit from them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think their greatest fear was that they would come in, sit for 10 minutes, and then have to leave because they're on calls like all the time. Yeah.
Hey,
so
Paul.
maybe just information about our neighborhood.
Yeah, the fellow that was presenting that you saw in the video, we can get in touch with and have him come by.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Raimi.
Yeah, so part of that, if they could come with information on our water pressure, because those of us along the canyon are already experiencing situations where water pressure is a problem. And I don't even want to think of what happens when there's an actual fire.
Mhm.
Actually, can I comment on that? A
Yeah,
firefighter
Danielle,
told
you
me
have-
about it. A
Go ahead, Danielle.
firefighter,
Oh, I'm sorry, who's this speaking?
Judy, it's Judy.
Yeah, Judy, you have the floor.
A couple of years ago, a firefighter told me that they had a practice exercise in Normal Heights, and he was so worried because he said if there had been a fire that day, they would not have been able to put it out because the water pressure was so low. So that's definitely a huge problem.
Thank you. Let's go to Danielle. You have your hand raised.
Thank you. That was the exact issue in 1985 when Normal Heights lost hundreds of homes. My family's house was not burnt to the ground, but very close to it. Several houses away down Cromwell Court, all burnt. My family house was on the corner of Holly and Cromwell Place. So water pressure is still an issue 30 some years, 40 years since. My main comment that I wanted to say is the fire department does not do the evacuations. It's the police department. The police officer that was there at Hoover High School was talking about the Genesis, which is brand new these last 2 years. And my main concern, like Paul's, is how do people who don't have a car, or if the fires or winds change and everybody in their car is in a traffic jam, how do they get on foot to the actual evacuation center? In my personal opinion, Allied Gardens was not the best choice to go across Freeway 8 into another neighborhood. They should have chosen Colina del Sol, where most of Talmadge could actually walk to for Talmadge residents, and somewhere at San Diego State, if they evacuated all the children from Hardy to a spot at San Diego State, they should have also had a spot for the Alvarado and College View estates to actually walk to if the wind shifted in either north or south directions. So I am planning to follow up with that police officer that was there at Hoover to explain the genesis about how they're using it when it's not car centric, when it has to be pedestrians or people on bicycles. And I don't think that new system takes that into account at all because of where they picked the evacuation center for this most recent fire. It was actually 3.5 blocks from my house now here in Talmadge.
Thank you. John?
I just wanted to mention the question about the water pressure. We were told up on Mountain View Drive, when they put in the new water pipes, that we wouldn't experience any increase in pressure because the pressure from the city pumps wasn't up to par. And well, I think one of the norms back in the 90s or early 2000s was 60 psi, and I don't think that's ever been reached. A couple of times that I have seen pressure tests done, the best they could do was 47.
Okay. Danielle, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have the contact information for the lieutenant who spoke about evacuations. I did get his card after the meeting at Hoover. His name is Christian Sharp. He's a lieutenant with the San Diego Police Department. He's with Critical Incident Management Unit that's located down at the 1400 block of Broadway. His cell number is 619-405-8021, and his email is csharp@pd.sandiego.gov. So the fire department does not coordinate evacuations, the police department does, and he would be the one to ask about anything evacuation wise for Normal Heights.
Okay. Thanks. Good to know.
All right.
Becky. You had a comment, I think.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for letting me speak. Tonight I just wanted to join you and raise awareness to the mislabeled marijuana products. There was a recent press conference that the San Diego County Sheriff's Office held, warning the public that they've uncovered multiple mislabeled products at local smoke shops, gas stations, and convenience stores. Products that were labeled THC free, but did in fact contain the ingredient. And then to take it a step further, the products were packaged and marketed in ways that appeal to children. So as planning groups and community organizations, I feel that we should be aware of this and concerned. One, concerned that rules are being violated and unenforced. And two, public health and safety is being jeopardized. I'm sure everyone in this room knows of someone who suffers from a severe life-threatening allergy. Can you imagine walking into a convenience store and purchasing a snack after looking at the label to make sure that it's free of the products containing the allergen, only to find out after consumption that in fact the product was mislabeled? And this is the exact situation that is happening and has become a reality for parents right here in San Diego as they've taken their children to Rady Children's Hospital. Dr. Natalie Lobb has stated that it is a reality, and sadly, the ER is seeing these cases every day. I asked this group to recognize that these rules are violated and that it's weakening the confidence of residents, and ask that you encourage council representatives to partner with law enforcement and demand that products are put through stricter and more vigorous testing processes. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have city representatives on the line, and our proceedings are recorded and posted. Next up is recertification for the election of Edie Kaufman. We did the election. I don't recall what the outcome was, but I think the simplest thing to do is just simply take a vote. Do we have a motion to place Edie on the board?
I so move. Thank you.
We have a move in a second from Alan and Brian. Do we have any comments? Then let's take it to a vote. All in favor? That looks unanimous. Thank you. Welcome officially.
Thank you.
That was my fault. I don't know how that got done.
That's okay. It seemed like the simplest thing to do is recertify, and your seat will come up in April anyway for because you're serving out the remaining term of the old seat. Next up is approval of the previous meeting minutes. We have a motion to approve. Motions. Oh, who second? Oh, okay, Brian second. And any, we can abstain for the approval, yeah. Any discussion? Changes? Take it to a vote for approving minutes. And it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yays. Any nays? Any abstains? Nancy and Emily were not here. Next up, city reports. We'll start with Sarah for D9.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So I only have a few updates. First one is I really want to encourage everyone to file get it dones for any broken streetlights or streetlights that just need repair. The transportation department is going to be in District 9 next month to repair them. So please file a get it done, elevate it to me so we can get that issue taken care of. Any questions on that? No?
I can't think of any. I mean, we have our streetlight study.
I also just want to say that this does not include repair of series circuit lights. given that they do require more extensive repair and more funding. So while the transportation department is in District 9, they're only going to do like more lighter repairs and not ones that are series circuit.
Okay,
And then,
then
sorry?
maybe the sunset sensors on some of these could be looked at the same time.
Yes. And then my next update is that council is currently on legislative recess. They will resume on Monday, December 9th, and they're going to be back on recess after that, beginning on the 23rd of December till January 13th. And those are all my updates for now. Any questions or concerns about anything?
Other question?
Yes, Jake.
Sarah, this is Jacob. The demolition of the mock building, winter 2024. Any update on that?
I have not received an update from the engineering or parks department on that yet. The latest was that it will be demolished in the winter, so I can check in on that again for you and email you an update.
Does winter 2024 mean it could happen January, February?
Yes.
Yeah.
I see also that Danielle has a question.
Thank you. We did have this question come up at the latest Adams CRG, and Jim Barros was going to reach out to you, Sarah, to find out who the contractor is that's supposed to be doing the work. Is it possible to announce that contractor yet to this group, or is that still under negotiation?
The contractor for what work, sorry?
The mock building that we were just talking about.
Oh, okay. I can look into it and double check, and then I can email you the information for that as well.
Could you let Jim Barros know and also Paul so that both groups get the mass email? I'm sure everybody wants to know when that building starts going down.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Sarah. Does the city have a process for determining when a street can move from parallel parking to head-in parking? And the reason I'm asking that is we're losing some space under this new state law that you can't park near the intersections. And as a way to get back some of that parking spaces, is there any way for some of the streets to go to head-in parking? I know we have some in some other neighborhoods nearby. I was wondering if the city has a process for that.
I don't know at the top of my head, but I'm happy to check in with city staff on it and then email you information.
Or just let us know next month.
Great. Oh yeah, definitely.
Scott, yeah.
So I'm on something called the Mid-City Community Parking District. And so that's pretty much all we've been doing for the last 20 years. And so it's a process with the city. We determine a street that it has to be wide enough to do either head-in or angle parking. And it's a petition process. Then with the effectiveness of the property owners, you have to go through a process where they get over 50% that oppose it. And it takes about, in my experience, 2 to 3 years to go through the process. The Mid-City Community Parking District goes from Park Boulevard all the way out to College at CSU. And I don't know, we put in probably close to 1,000 extra parking spaces over the last 20, 30 years, just one street at a time. Holly Boulevard is an example. This was done from Madison to Adams about 15 years ago. So anyway, it's just a slow crawl. We meet monthly over at the Alcone Boulevard bid office. And that's what the other 2 parking districts do all as well, downtown and the uptown district. So that's the focus of really the work of the parking districts. It's the easiest way to increase parking is converting, but there's a lot of obstacles to that, driveways, and sometimes residential opposition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Real quick, when are they gonna be, when is the Department of Transportation gonna be in District 9?
That they said next month.
And then.
It's in January. Sorry, is that right? January is when Transpo would be coming into Normal Heights.
Yes, January.
Thank you. Let's go to Fatima for Mayor's Office.
Hi, everyone. Some quick updates. So tomorrow, actually, the mayor will be streaming an announcement on the 5-year outlook plan. So that's going to be again tomorrow at 9 a.m. And I shared the link. It's going to be on YouTube, but I shared the link with Paul. So if you are interested in watching that live stream, you can also reach out to me or Paul for that link. But it's essentially going to be giving important information on what to expect for the upcoming fiscal year of 2026, in addition to the coming years as well. So if you have any interest in hearing that announcement, I very much encourage you to go ahead and log on to that and watch it. Another update I want to give you was on more specifically on homelessness. If you're not already aware, Path will be coming into Ward Canyon Neighborhood Park in the coming, I don't have a specific timeline, but they are scheduled to come in the coming month or weeks. I'm trying to get a more specific date on when exactly they plan to start their outreach there. If you're not familiar with PATH, they are a lead agency and provider for homelessness services across the county. They conduct a lot of the outreach that they do for the city here with us, and they will be the lead agency conducting outreach at Ward Canyon Neighborhood Park. This is part of ER funding that we got from the state, and ER funding, essentially, it stands for Encampment Resolution Funding. And so the city was able to use that funding to essentially designate certain locations throughout the city that require intensive homelessness outreach and services. So Ward Canyon was actually selected by the city to get these resources because we've seen a high increase of encampments and homelessness activity in that area. So currently, PATH outreach workers are currently in Terralta Park doing their work there, but soon after they finish their work there, they will be transitioning over to Ward Canyon Neighborhood Park and doing their outreach there. I did want to give a little bit more context as to how they separate their outreach there. So the entire ERA funding program that goes into Ward Canyon Park is split up into 3 different phases, essentially. So part 1 is that intensive street outreach. What this includes is PATH workers going into the park and actually making face-to-face contact with the folks in that area and offering them services. But during this time, PD is not allowed to go in there and enforce because the outreach part is being conducted. So once the outreach is finalized by PATH, they essentially said, we've tried all, we've exhausted all of our resources here. We did all the outreach that we can. PD can essentially come in and enforce. With that also comes up the including of UCO signage. So that is the unsafe camping ordinance signage. So we'll go ahead and put up those signage around the 2-block radius of the park, and then PD will come in and enforce. Throughout this time, though, throughout the outreach time, Parks and Rec is still doing the regular cleanup and making sure that they clean up any leftover debris that is being there. So they're trying their best to still maintain the park while that outreach is happening. But I did want to note that during this time period where outreach will be conducted, PD cannot enforce in that area. So essentially, it's supposed to be kind of like we're trying to get these folks out of the park into permanent housing solutions, or at least shelter in the meantime. But then after we've given them that opportunity, we're gonna have enforcement there. So that is coming to Ward Canyon Park soon. Once I get that specific timeline, I'll make sure to share it to Paul so that he can spread it out with y'all who are interested in getting more details about that. But like I said, this isn't Ward Canyon Park isn't the only location that we've been doing this. Recently, if you saw the news, the island was cleared up. That one was under the I-5. That was part of ER funding. Like I said, Terralta Park, East Village has had a few as well. So it's all throughout the city, but this is specific to the community and the neighborhood. So I thought I'd share that. Those are my main updates for today, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Question?
Yes.
Fatima, thank you. So you're saying that PATH is not actively working at Ward Canyon Park yet, right?
So no, they're currently in Terralta Park. So we still are doing obviously our regular outreach in these areas, but the concentration where PATH will be coming in and PD cannot do enforcement will be during that time period, which I still don't have yet a specific date on when they plan to start and finish their outreach right now. But I will say, as of right now, they're not in Ward Canyon Park. We're still doing our regular normal outreach that we do in those areas through PD, which is usually just If you report something or if PD sees something going on, they'll do their outreach through that method. But specifically through ERF funding, PATH is not at Ward Canyon Park yet.
Thank you. I'm reading an email right now from September 30th, 2024 from Sarah Algar with a quote from PATH saying that they are already establishing rapport with several individuals at Ward Canyon Park. And in my experience, it's the same individuals who've been there since the day I moved to this neighborhood. So why do they need to come and do an assessment if they've already established rapport? Quote, they've already established rapport with individuals at Ward Canyon Park and are actively working towards housing placement for them and providing essential case management services. So why do the assessment and shut down enforcement for that time if it's already been done?
So this new ERF funding essentially is going to allow PATH to specifically concentrate in that area for that specific time period. That doesn't mean that PATH doesn't already have homeless individuals that they've already contacted. They have a list of folks that they've contacted in the past prior to their exclusive work that they're going to be conducting there. Obviously, that accounts to their list of how many times they've contacted these individuals. So as of my knowledge, from this ERF funding program and phasing that they're rolling out, they're still in Peralta Park, and that was extended to an additional 2 weeks. So as of my knowledge right now, they're not in Ward Canyon Park quite yet. Have they been in there in the past? Likely. Have they have folks go out there to make contact with people? That is also likely. So that all of that data is continuously collected and is accounted to when they actually go in there for that exclusive time period.
And what is the enforcement period where there will be no enforcement by police? Do you have a time range?
That's the one I actually elevated that question to our homelessness strategies department to make sure that we got a better timeline, because the one that they had given us in the past was not updated. So I want to make sure that the information that I provide you is the most up to date, because I just recently found out that that Peralta Park got extended by 2 weeks. So I just want to get those new schedule changes and make sure that there's no plan to make any more changes to that schedule. So I'll get that information as soon as possible to y'all.
My final question is, if there's a no enforcement period, what does that actually mean for us families who are actually visiting the park regularly? If there's somebody having a mental health episode or something, near the playground, which is very common, does that mean if we call police or if we make a report that they're not going to do anything about it until PATH has done what they want to do?
So not exactly. What I mean by no enforcement is that if there is a tent-like structure in the park, PD cannot come in and essentially say, you have to move along. If there's a violent crime, obviously, or if they're being threatening, obviously, I very much encourage you to call 911 or communicate with PD what the issue is if that's happening. But if we just have an encampment in the area, they're going to defer to PATH as the primary entity there to do the outreach. Because essentially, even if there was an encampment there, let's say this wasn't the no enforcement exclusive period, PD would simply come in and do outreach as well. So the positive thing that's coming out of this is that after this outreach, we're putting up the signage. Once the signage goes up, it essentially allows PD to say, hey, you're within this period of the park, you have to go ahead and move out of here. And we essentially, we skip those outreach steps and we go straight to enforcement and citation.
Yeah, the signage is already out.
It's been up for about a year.
It's just confusing. I think PATH does great work. It's just confusing that there needs to be this no enforcement period. I think it's plain and simple that tents do not belong next to the playground, and we're tired of it. We're very tired of it.
It sounds like this has been done then, is what you're saying, and that you're just redoing everything all over again.
Well, according to the email I got from Sarah, they're already doing outreach there, so I don't understand the enforcement period. It's the same group of people, there's no one new there, it's half a dozen people that are regulars. But yeah, they're having mental health breakdowns and episodes, steps from the playground, which is another big reason why we want the mock building gone, because it provides a place for horrible crimes to happen out of sight.
Right. And I understand those frustrations, and I can definitely connect with Homelessness Strategies Department to get more specifics as to what the past outreach has been in Ward Canyon Park and why specifically they're having that the no enforcement period. That's the most, to my understanding, that I have on this progress and rolling out. But I can definitely get more details on why specifically that was chosen that way to address any of those concerns that y'all have. And we can also take a look at a few stats and evidence from currently what's going on in Terralta Park because they're also experiencing similar situations to Ward Canyon.
Thank you. We'll
Okay,
look
I'm
forward
gonna
to your
take
update.
I'm gonna give Kenny the floor, then we'll go to Danielle and Scott.
Right, just really quick, can we still call 988 NCRT while Pat is doing our assessment?
What number was that? Did you say?
988, the mobile crisis response team.
So if there is like similar to what I told I believe it's Jacob who I just spoke to, if there is a violent crime happening or there is a crisis happening, you can always call those numbers. But if it's simply a homeless individual with an encampment, there's nothing more than that, then they're going to defer to PATH. But like if there is a crisis happening, you can always call those numbers elevated to PD, whoever may be, to address those crises immediately.
Okay. Let me catch Danielle first, and then we'll come back. Danielle, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Fatima. I'm the District 9 rep for the Parks and Rec Board, so I have a bigger scope than just Ward Canyon Park. And so my question is, can these encampment reduction funds also be used in open space?
I don't have the specific answer to that. I know that the project site selections were based off of data that they collected from council office inputs, community groups, Caltrans, the hotspots that were known in the area, and then 211 referrals. I'm not 100% sure if it was used to look at open spaces. I'll get back to that one because I know that there's a few locations where it may have been considered open space that were chosen.
Okay,
So I'll
and
get
do you
back to
have
you
a
on that.
list of all the hotspots in District 9, please, that you could share with us?
I don't, but let me see if I can go ahead and connect with our neighborhood policing division to get that information for you.
That would be wonderful because Kensington and Talmadge, I'm sure Normal Heights too, have encampments down canyons where people have barbecues and propane tanks, and this is a fire risk, and those really are literally the hot spots.
Right, and I'm aware of some of those locations specifically in Kensington and Talmadge as well, specifically along Aldine and Fairmont, where you can just see if you even go on Get It Done, you can see the number of reports on encampments along that area. So I'm trying to currently right now our office is transitioning our unsafe camping ordinance signage into open space areas. That is one of the locations that they are considering to take a look at. So we're having our city staff review that for UCO signage. So I'll get more details on that once that assessment is complete.
Okay, Scott?
I just want to remind Jacob in the group that when Pat was up here before, the District 9 was telling us that it was a separately funded initiative, but they've seen a huge increase along the I-15 corridor, and they started in City Heights, and they were working their way up, and then they finally got to Ward Canyon. And this is just another bunch of money, and they have more resources, and they're going to continue to do their outreach. It's not like they're going to solve it, but and Pat's been in the neighborhood before. I mean, they do this whole time. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Pat coming back, and we have extra energy and attention on Ward Canyon, and then you can't hurt.
So, okay. It's just unfortunate that we can't remove, or we can't request for removal. This is the same people.
But I mean, how's that different than every day? I mean, the encampment just came back this week. It's not like they come in and enforced and got rid of people. Everyone's recongregated around the mock building in the last week of the.
I look at it just like the graffiti. You gotta keep covering it, and just keep reporting, keep getting them out to make them realize this is not a place to camp. That's all.
Okay. Anything else to report?
That is all for me, unless I have any more questions.
I have one thing to report, and that's that Fatima was key in getting the attention of Jim Mandler, who is drafting the lease for the community garden. Apparently, our emails were going into his spam bucket. She made a couple of calls, and he was He was calling me and emailing me within the hour. So big round of applause for delivering it. Thank you. So no ETA on the lease, but we're hopeful. We have any representation from the county? And I believe state and federal are in the process of transitioning offices. So that would take us to,
Hey, Paul.
yes.
Hey, Kathy had put in the chat that she had some things to talk about for the county. Is that still active?
Thank you. And I know, yeah, almost time to end. So I'm gonna try to be brief and first appreciate it. Thank you for taking time and giving us opportunity to talk to you today. So I'm with the Public Records Act unit with the County of San Diego, and our unit was established to centralize the Public Records Act processing for the county and to make this process more equitable for everyone. So to achieve this, the county recently launched its online public records request center last March 21st. And that's why I'm here with you today, so that I can give you more information on this service from the county and to provide you additional resources. Okay. And before I go into more details on the period processing, I want to give you more information on the California Public Records Act. And this is found in the Government Code Section 7922 in subsequent sections. So basically, this is just a logical extension of the Brown Act. So not only do we want the decisions to be made open, we also want the background information on them to be available to the public. Under the CPRA, the government agency is required to provide a response within 10 calendar days of receipt of your Public Records Act request. So that response can be the records are provided to the requester, or we let you know that the records are available, but they are exempt and they cannot be disclosed, or there are no responsive records from the agency. And that brings us to the next slide, which is what is a public record. So a public record is any writing containing information relating to the conduct of the public's business that is prepared, owned, used, or retained by any state or local agency, regardless of its physical form or characteristics. So we also must remember that these records are subject to records retention laws. So that just means that if a record has a retention schedule of 6 months, if that record is requested in a Public Records Act request 2 years later, most likely the agency will not have a copy of that record because it's already been destroyed. Before you submit a Public Records Act request, we also want you to know that there's some records that should not be requested, and those records include the ones that are exempt. So we have over 75 express exemptions, and those are the ones that we cannot release because they're protecting privacy. They have personal identifying information, health information, attorney-client privilege, drafts, and other certain law enforcement records. The link here, you can see some of the exemptions for Public Records Act requests. There are also records that are publicly available online. The county has a lot of data portals, and you can visit those sites here via this link, and then you can see if the information that you're looking for is already available online, and those data sets are can be downloaded. There are also records that are already available to you. So before you submit a PRA request, for example, you just want to know the list of books that you checked out from the library. So you don't need a Public Records Act request for that. Unless you want to know all the list of books that have been checked out from the county library, then you can submit a Public Records Act request. So if you have determined you cannot find the records that you need online, then you can go ahead and submit a Public Records Act request. We do recommend that you try these steps, which is to visit our Public Records request page first, where you can see the link for the different data portals, and you can also view the existing Public Records Act requests that we have. So since we launched in March 21st, we already have over 3,400 Public Records Act requests that has been processed by the county. So our system is this covers over 40 different departments in the county. So we have all the records that we have released and all of the previous requests that we have processed. So the records that you might be seeking might be already have been requested by someone, especially if it's something that's very relevant. Someone might have requested that information already. And if you can't find it, go ahead and submit a Public Records Act request. And that will take you to this page where you're going to write in the description of your request. And we do recommend to please be descriptive as possible. The more information that you provide, the better for us to help us identify the record that you are seeking. We also have this yellow pop-up boxes. So if the information that you're seeking is, for example, if you're looking for targeted case management and this program is handled by the Public Health Services Department, it will have a yellow pop-up box instructing you to select the Public Health Services. Please pay attention to these boxes because this is going to help your request to be processed faster. Because if you select the Public Health Services as department for your request, then the request will directly go to that department. Also on that page where you type in your request, we do have a gray box area there where we have important information on how the county process Public Records Act requests. So one of the most important information that we have there is that after 72 hours of closing your request and all the records that we provided to you becomes publicly available. So that just means that the request description that you put in here and the records that we have provided to you will be available to the public. So if anyone needs information, then they can search for the same information, and then the description will be available for them to download. And also, so only the description, and then the records are available, not the requester's information. So here is where you select the department, and also you have an option to submit a request anonymously. That is where you don't have to provide your name, but we do suggest that you provide an email. That is because in case your request is not clear and we need to contact you, we need to contact you via email. Or else, if you don't provide an email and you want to submit it with no email, no name, we have no way to contact you. So we're just going to end up closing your request so that you can view that request 72 hours later and see how what the county's response is. And that sums up the process of submitting a Public Records Act request. On this slide, you will just see some additional resources that can help you understand what's a Public Records Act request. And then here are the links that I've mentioned earlier. This is the guide that we have. If you are interested in submitting a Public Records Act request to the county, we do have a YouTube video that will guide you on how to submit that in our Public Records Request Center. Okay, and that concludes my presentation. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them right now. And if you don't have any, please send it to our and you just remember later on and want to ask us questions related to Public Records Act requests, here is our contact information. You can email us at cobrecords@sdcounty.ca.gov. And here is the website. If you need to submit a Public Records Act request to the county, you can submit it here at pra.sandiegocounty.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Can we get that presentation so we can have it?
Yeah, Catherine, did you email me the slides, or is that available on your website at PRA?
I will email you the presentation now.
Okay, but then we'll make sure to include that on our website. Any questions from, it looks like Rainey, yes.
So I have two questions. One is, it sounded like in the presentation that if you don't have any applicable records, you will specifically say, we don't have any records to offer. Is that what I heard?
So if let's say it's something that the county does not have, or we don't have responsive records, yes, we will say that we don't have responsive records to your request. Or if it's something that is with another agency, we would refer you to that agency. So for example, we have a lot of requests like for property records that are not under the jurisdiction of the county. We do refer them to city contacts so that they can reach out to them because they're the proper authority that have the records that they're seeking.
Perfect. And I appreciate that transparency because that's not always what we get. The second question is, you said about asking anonymously. Does that include if there is legal action taken where the requester needs to be revealed? How does the county address that?
So in terms of like if we require the requester to reveal his or her information.
Correct.
No, so we do not require. What's going to happen is that if that email is not provided and we have questions, then we have to close the request, and then you're just going to look into our website to see if that request is already once that request is closed, and see our response. But if we do have the records, so even if it's anonymous, we're going to close it and the records will be provided. So the only downside of submitting an anonymous request is that we cannot contact you if we need clarification, but we're not going to require you to submit the information so that we can process your request. So what we usually do when we need clarification, whether it's anonymously submitted or not, we provide we provide time for the requesters to submit that information that we need. And if it's not submitted within that time, we close it. But then you are not, we do not, you're still allowed to submit a new request. Let's say you want to clarify like 2 weeks or the following month, you can still submit a new request.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll get that those slides posted on our website as well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Moving on to community groups, Adams Avenue Business Association.
Okay, here are the highlights. Let's see, the Mars Project property was sold at auction last week. We don't know who the new owner or ownership entity is, but that info will be available publicly soon. The alley between Hawley and Mansfield, the closest alley to us right there due north, was repaved last week, thanks to the help of Fatima and the mayor's office. Want to encourage folks to take a look at the 100-foot-long mural in that same alley, which has been under construction for the past 60 days, due to be completed next week. The mural was funded by ARP, and the alley improvement project's been a collaborative effort led by UCSD Urban Studies professor, her students, and the AABA. December 8th is our holiday event at Kensington Park with snow, Santa, hot chocolate, and candy. It's a free event. We usually have 300 or 400 kids and their families there. We grind up 10 tons of ice in front of people's eyes and create snow on the park. So this is like the 12th year I think we've done it up there. We used to do it here on Adams Park, and we used to have horse-drawn hay rides, left Smitty's, went around the block and had snow down here. So anyway, it's switched up to Kensington. Last week we lit the holiday tree that's in the Kensington Library Park. That was put up by the Business Association's the 6th year it lasted. And then my last announcement is February 4th is the AABA's annual breakfast meeting. It's where we conduct our annual board elections. We usually get about 80 or 90 business and property owners attending, the general public is invited. It's a $10 entry fee, gets you a scrumptious breakfast, but we don't have the location, we'll have the location by Friday. And we're gonna put it up on our social media. That's my report. Thank you.
I don't believe Gary Weber is here for, Adams Avenue Business Improvement Association. El Cajon Boulevard Improvement Association. Normal Heights Community Association, Normal Heights Urban Arts. Do we have any representation there? And as a side note, Greg Stone is no longer on the board. He is moving out of state, but he'll drop in from time to time on our Zoom channel. So that means we do have one open seat if everybody knows of someone who's interested. Adams Avenue Community Recreation Advisory Group. Nancy, do you have any news?
We had a meeting last week and we went over the same thing again, the homeless stuff, Fort Canyon, and walked over. I don't know if there was anything else about getting used on that. And we also mentioned all the graffiti in the park, because it's all over the place. In the bowl, around the walkways, you're walking around them. And there's a lot of it. And so we talked to the guy that's the lead direct person of Adams Avenue about it, and he said he was gonna get on his, the maintenance guy, and see about cleaning up. And we mentioned talked about the community garden, but we didn't have any updates that were updated, so we didn't go any further with that. And the next meeting in December, we are not gonna have it. It's gonna come Christmas. Not having it.
Thank you. Normal Heights for Smart Growth. You mentioned the community garden earlier. It's they're drafting a lease that will go to Lois Miller with the CDC as the code signatory, and at that point, we will have an active board with any heading that up and getting board members together and hiring a garden manager, or getting one to volunteer actually. And as soon as possible, as soon as we get a key turnover, I'm going to see about grading, doing some light grading on there to get the weeds and get it fairly flat. And then a layer of cardboard is going to go down with about maybe 6 to 8 inches of leaf post on top of that. So that hopefully will get in before the rainy season, so that can all start bio mulching on top of there. And then after that, it's like standing committees, mid-city community plan update.
Yes. So we have a virtual meeting next Wednesday. If anyone's interested, I can forward you the Zoom information, but it is to review the mobility existing conditions report. So I will bring an update on that in January. That was kind of like a bonus meeting. That was not one of our planned ones. So I think our next scheduled meeting is supposed to be sometime in January or February, but they have not set that date yet.
And I have a question. I got the e-blast I reserved or whatever, that I was become RFP. Is that a meeting where people are allowed? Is it a Zoom seminar or is it interactive and the public can speak? Do you know how that's gonna work?
Yeah, it's odd because all these were this is like outside of the sanctioned meeting, so I don't know if it'll be a different format, but at least if it's based on how the other meetings have gone that have been in person, it's typically been the city does a presentation, then it's opened up first for the mid-city, board members for comment, and then there's typically time for public comment towards the end. But since the Zoom, I got the invite and I was like, what the heck? They didn't even mention it to us at our last meeting. So since it's a little bit of a different thing, I'm not sure if that will be the same, but at least that's how it has been up until now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Historical property report, usually Dan on that one.
And Paul, on that first draft you made, I remember seeing community engagement, but it's not on this one.
It's on the back.
Oh, there's that.
Oh, you're missing page 2.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. There's the black and white ones are two-sided. Utility undergrounding.
Yes, so our next step was to send out the postcards for the property owner survey. Francis and I were gearing up to do that, and we were like, oh shoot, it's election season, so there was a lot of kind of mailers floating around, and we didn't want our little postcard getting lost and all that paper. I think with the holidays, we'll circle up, but I'm guessing probably come January, fresh year, fresh start, and we'll get that. We have everything ready to go, so it's just a matter of hitting print, slapping some stamps on, and getting that survey out. I haven't touched base with the city in a little while on kind of where things stand, so it's probably about time for me to buzz them about that too. So I'll have an update next month.
Okay. We'll skip over tree replacements, traffic issue task force.
No report.
Awesome. Community engagement.
So we did not have a formal meeting. Starting to distribute flyers. Sammy's taking the north side out, I'm taking the south. In regards to, we had mentioned that maybe we would contact the rec center. I've asked so many people if they ever read that sign, nobody reads it. I'm not sure it's worth it. I mean, we could, but so it's just up in the air if we really want to, but. Do you?
Yeah.
I've been asking all my clients, like this month, so over 100 people, nobody is like, what's that?
Yeah.
So maybe it's not the best place.
We're busy looking at the butterfly.
Yeah, so nextly, I'd like to ask the board if we can invite a woman I met today, actually. Her name is Alexis Wool. If we can invite her for the March meeting. That's Alexis, W-O-H-L, to speak. She is a wildlife vet from Habitat for Humanity, but she wants to talk about the wildlife of Normal Heights and how they're using our land. And because spring will be approaching, she'll just give the community a little Q&A and just info on what to do if you find coyote pups or baby crows, stuff like that. You're probably wondering why the hell she come to speak here, but I think it's part of community engagement. It's a great way to get people in the door to hear her story. She could also bring this beautiful little creature she takes care of. It's an education animal. It's completely blind, but I could bring a ton of younger folks in here.
All right.
To know what it is.
Well, you gonna bring birds into the
We're
building?
gonna bring a bird in the building, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tame owl, I mean, it's an owl in a cage. I'm sure.
So, do we have any dissent? Let's put it that way.
Anybody not like that?
No, okay, I'll put her on the agenda. Give me the information and I'll make sure she's on the
I'm
agenda.
totally behind that, Jacob. I love it.
Next would be next door. I sent out an email 2 times now. The first one, Paul, thank you so much for leaving a recommendation on next door. That it brings a considerable amount of eyes to our group. Like very considerable, hundreds of people just from Paul's single recommendation. Thank you, Brian and Sammy, for doing the same thing. It brought twice that, more followers on that page. It brings a lot of people, but I just really hope every member of the board can it takes 10 minutes. I know a lot of people aren't into next door. There's a lot of drama on there. I get it. I know. I spend 5 or 10 minutes every week meeting people. It's just the same people over and over. Now to this day, when I log on next door, I see all the positive stuff in our neighborhood going on, all the really positive stuff. It's very rare that I see all the drama anymore. But it just takes a minute. I'll send an email out again with the link. It just would mean a lot. I'm trying to improve community engagement for this group. It's not necessarily discouraging, but it makes me scratch my head. And I'm just wondering why only 3 members of the board have logged on and take a little 5 minutes. Just leave a little blurb about on the Normal Heights Community Planning Group. It works. And maybe it'll help if I say that the service I'm doing voluntarily of my own free will to do this, I charge $100 an hour to do this stuff. It really works. So if we just take a few minutes, each of us to log in there, create a little blurb, you'll see Paul and Sammy and Brian. You do something similar like that or introduce yourself. it will help.
You're saying on our website?
No, on the Next Door website.
On next door.
Yeah, it's Next Door.
Okay,
It's
got
a
it,
Normal
got it.
Heights Community Planning Group page. Yeah.
Oh.
I provided like instructions on how to do it in that last email.
Planning group page on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really done on Facebook, so I see a lot of the community association all the time.
We have a planning group page on Facebook, but it's not very well traveled.
Who does that? You?
Yeah, I think I have
You moderate that group? Like
Yeah,
make the posts?
I mean, it's a page, so things can be posted, but there's only comment. The public can't post on the page.
Right.
Your meeting and everything.
But
on
who
there.
makes the post? You?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
get
I usually,
On the community association all the time about the Halloween light thing and their bike things they're having and they're having the trolley again, yeah. So
Yeah,
they-
Facebook's great for it
tour of the
too.
lights.
As what I learned is don't put all your eggs in one basket, use more. And Next Door is like specific, it is the demographic that we're trying to draw in. They are interested if we just show up on there. Lastly, I was just gonna make some Next Door posts, a survey for the stagnant water possibly. I'll post some Measure B info. I was gonna post Alan's STR presentation. I could do a street light repair survey right away this month, see if anyone reports that. And even the public records is there. Also for the open board seats. When we talked about it goes straight to people jump now. Even though I sent those emails, I cannot find them sent, so I'm wondering if you still have that sheet with the board interest. There's 12 people in there. We didn't talk to, so we could maybe all reach out to them.
I'll look through my scan.
What's it?
Okay. Finance committee.
I'm working on shirts. I'm getting a proposal for normal height shirts. It's not community planning group shirts. It'll be just the sign. 3 color, white, red, and blue. Okay. I'm working on that. Sure. Basically, I'm gonna use my own money to have that done, and then all profits from that would go to the group.
Okay.
Okay. It's a big cost for them to get started.
Yes.
On the t-shirts, have you got your t-shirt mark?
No,
Go through, they're right on,
it's double. I have a contact in Oregon, actually, that will print these for half the price and for the same quality.
like, cause you can get really cheap t-shirts.
Yeah, you get what you pay for though. I want this at quality.
Sweatshirts and stuff on them.
Mhm.
And I've gone and got printing done, like, some of them.
Yeah, I've looked at some shops around here and people are wanting like with the shirt and to print it, like up to $20 per shirt. I can get them for like 6 to 8.
But it depends on the quality of how many you're gonna.
Exactly, yeah. Highest for the highest quality. It'll last 100 washes guaranteed.
Are we?
Yeah,
We're at the end of the agenda. We've run overtime tonight, so I'm gonna scratch the executive session, but you're certainly welcome to congregate in the courtyard.
Yeah, so we could, I'll put out a way to take the trip.
Thank you.